bonjour, and welcome to the Amateur Detective Club. This club is exactly how it sounds. A bunch of amateurs talking about their favorite mysteries. So if you encounter a real mystery or a murder, contact the proper authorities. Do not come to us. We do not know what we are doing. But enjoy the program. Allons-y. Let us begin.
I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to order. My name is Tristan Miller, the Saucy Sleuth.
I'm Melissa Meli, the Spy.
I'm Tyler Riley, Cop and a Half.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/IDCpod and browse the unmatched selections of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/ADCpod. So, besides the novel on which this episode is based, I would recommend, as per my perfect impression of Timothy Curry, he narrates Peter Pan, and it's very good. And he also narrates some of the Series of Unfortunate Events books, except for 2 that were done by the author, and he deeply regrets it.
He regrets not being Tim Curry.
Yes, number 1. Yes, of course, as we all do.
As we all do.
I was going to say something a little mean. Maybe not so much now. His health is waning, but, it's very sad. But it's hard reading an audiobook, and then also he wasn't very good at it. Specifically when you have Tim Curry.
The author, not Tim Curry.
Tim Curry was a genius at it, because he's like Violet Baudelaire, and it's phenomenal. And Tim is in this episode, and that's why
that's why we're talking about Tim Curry.
Which is, I thought, there's several friendly, familiar faces in this episode, but as Tim is a friend of the show, as we use him to bleep out.
Yes, of course. Some curse words we say, we've gotten a little more relaxed with it, haven't we?
Yeah, well, again, the adage I use is if they say it in the episode of Poirot, we can say it, because presumably you're watching Poirot as well. So, it's kind of like...
Yeah, so
ABC.
in case y'all were wondering, for all of our underage listeners, underage for what?
I don't like
You're
that.
Underage for Poirot. I mean, you know what I
know what you
meant.
meant.
For all the families listening out there, that is the rubric for Tyler and my mother, who are regular listeners. That is the rubric we use.
Yes.
We've
talked about Tim Curry on this podcast before because of Clue, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when was the first... can you tell me when was the first time you were introduced to Tim as a concept?
I was going to ask that same question.
There you go.
It was the Worst Witch.
Oh, the Worst Witch.
That I talk about, I am sure, multiple times on this podcast.
The Worst Witch is Melissa's Flushed Away. So...
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's true. It's not, but see, the difference is that Tristan thinks that Flushed Away is brilliant, whereas I'm like, I get what the Worst Witch is, and it's not brilliant, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. So if you want to see Tim Curry and Diana Rigg in the same movie, and
I actually would, as a matter of fact.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everyone at this witch's school thinks that because he is the grand wizard, Tim Curry is. Obviously. He flies around and sings a hong. My God, I can't talk. A song about Halloween.
A hong song?
He sings a song about Halloween. And everyone is just swooning over him, including Diana Rigg, by the way, who is also very hot in this movie. She's mean teacher.
Ugh.
Is she the titular worst witch?
No, that's Firuza Balk.
Who is a small child, I assume, who's bad at being a witch, who has to learn to be good by
That name sounds familiar.
harnessing the power.
She
within
was
herself.
in, I want to say, The Craft? That might be correct.
Tyler, where did you first discover Timothy and your feelings for him?
Well, we're not in a
Whatever
Tim
those
hurry to
might
get
be.
to this episode, are we?
Well, I just
Are we ever?
I guess Fern Gully? I mean, I don't know.
that was me too. Slime up above me.
Yeah.
That and Nigel Thornberry's Animal World. This episode of Agatha Christie's Poirot, season 11, episode 4, Appointment with Death.
Mm-hmm.
So, it starts with an archaeological dig, right?
Yes.
Racism, then a dig. Yeah.
As one does.
Sure.
Um,
There's just some atmospheric racism that we get.
that is a phenomenal phrase, and I...
Where's that shirt?
Exactly.
Where's that piece of merch?
Exactly. I was gonna say. Oh, by the way, I ordered some socks that have order and method on them. They're very cute, but not. They're not like cotton socks. They're fine. They're like nylon, weird stuff. Anyway, point.
What are the 5 greatest fabrics of all time?
Yeah.
Nylon, 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 and nylon.
What is this?
The Chappelle's folks, people will get it.
Ah, yes. Okay. So Tim Curry's in a tomb, and he's bossing people around to dig stuff up, and it's intercut with Poirot arriving at a hotel, right?
Yeah.
And at this hotel, there's a mean old lady who keeps
So mean.
so mean. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, so they're really murder she wroting this character of like you hate her and she's gonna die.
She's so she is the wife of
My wife. I'm sorry.
She's the wife of Tim
Oh, I'm
Curry.
sorry. My wife.
There
Very
you go.
nice. Great success. Whoa, Tim Curry is Borat. I'm sorry. As a concept.
The My Wife, spot on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So yes, he is Lord Boynton. She is Lady Boynton.
Yeah, and she has 3 kids. Na 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 na.
Carol, Raymond, and Ginny with a J.
Mm-hmm.
Also on this trip with them is Nanny. I don't remember Nanny's name, though. They say it at one point, but I don't remember it.
She's
Yeah.
pretty much referred to as
That's okay.
Nanny.
Yeah.
Much like the dog from Peter Pan.
Nana.
Nana, yes. So they're all there. She's telling them what to do in a way that is, okay, here's also something. If you have experienced any sort of physical abuse from anyone, you may want to just not watch this episode.
Yeah.
I felt very uncomfortable, and that I hadn't experienced any of that, so I can't imagine what someone who has would be watching this. So
That is a good
warning
point.
up top. I almost had to like walk away. Anyhow.
Yeah, it's upsetting.
Yeah, deeply upsetting.
Never watch Precious.
I won't, and I knew that. I was like, I'm good.
Didn't know if you knew.
Yep, I'm like,
So.
I think I'm okay. Vis-a-vis Precious. Okay, so
And I'm looking at for Nanny, her IMDb page, and I'm looking at like the photos of her. Cause okay, all right. These are all from when she was quite a bit younger. All the photos on IMDb. And okay, she was in this is a Mansfield Park. Okay, she was the Ghost of Christmas Past in one of the George C. Scott Christmas Carol. Okay, yeah. That's familiar to me. Oh, hi, Romeo. Romeo has decided to join us. And she was in The Six Wives of Henry VIII, which is a movie I have not seen, but yeah,
Okay.
looks interesting. Yeah, just so everyone knows.
So
I'm like, I was trying to figure out what this photo
Yeah,
of her was
that's
because
fair.
I'm like, she looks so young in this. This is not current with the episode.
yeah.
All right.
A lot of the times with older folks, IMDb is very gracious and will be like, here is something from their mid-20s. The nanny is there as well, as is a colonel, which Poirot bumps into, as is a stockbroker from, in all caps, from America. Now, I want to address this again, because the family
Sure.
is also from America in big, bold letters. And again,
Well, like half of them are.
yes, I suppose. The mother is, isn't it? Half of them.
Yeah, the mother's, yeah.
Because they live over in New York. And
Yeah, those very familiar New York
yeah,
accents.
again, I think it's a
You get from
choice.
them.
I think there are all these actors, the British actors that are asked to do these American accents are asked to do like a 1940s sort of like weird, like transatlantic situation. Because it's so stylized specifically in this episode with the stockbroker. I'm like, there's no way that's not on purpose.
I suppose.
But what's interesting is that a character who has yet to be introduced in this episode is an American, but playing
A British
someone British.
That's phenomenal. So
It's wild.
the Colonel, by the way, is played by the actor who plays Belloc in Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
There you go.
So I was like, he looks very familiar in a desert setting. Why? And that's why. Gonna blow it up, Belloc.
You look like you have been in a desert before.
You look like you've aged terribly, is essentially. No, so wear sunscreen, kids. You don't want to look like Obi-Wan. You don't want to age like Obi-Wan.
Oh goodness. So there's a man in this from The Mummy.
Yes,
as well.
that is
Yeah, Jonathan. Like, that's not his name in this episode, but he played Jonathan, Rachel Weisz's brother in the Mummy trilogy.
you love to
Yeah.
see it.
Okay.
Again, desert setting. They know.
When
They know.
I set the table, it's a dessert setting.
Ooh,
That's right.
So they're all at this hotel and they're about to go to the dig. Are we missing anyone at this point?
Doesn't
Basically,
matter.
Not at this point.
okay. Basically, the mom's terrible, and the kids are like, "Our mom's terrible, but what are we gonna do?" Poirot does overhear someone say, "She's gotta go."
Yes.
Yeah.
Carol and Raymond are in a hotel room. Carol was sent to go look for Lady Boynton's vitamins, and Raymond was also sent to look for a book. Carol is freaking out. Raymond enters comical and collected. She's like, "Where are these pills? Where are these pills?" And he's like, "She has them. Like we've grown up with this woman. Have you not understood the games that this woman plays?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing that she sent us for is actually here."
Yeah.
And then she
Yeah.
completely breaks down and is crying about how she cannot take any more from this woman. Like, she really wants to kill her.
Yeah.
Everyone hates her except for Tim Curry, her husband, who, for some reason that no one can work out, is wildly, madly in love with her.
Money. She funds his
It
archaeological
seems-
digs.
It's at least gotten into his head that it's more than that. He's like, when spoiler alert, she dies. He's very broken up about the whole situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's also easy to I mean, she lives in New York and he's in where
Syria.
Syria, thank you. So it's really easy to project whatever you want onto someone when they're continents away.
I suppose.
You know,
He is searching for, by the way, the head of John the Baptist.
yes, which was famously removed
Yes.
from his body.
Right,
Oh.
yeah. Resulting in his death.
Presumably.
Well, I mean, he could have been dead before that, but it was part of the whole death experience. Like, it was close by.
Yes.
The head removal.
So they go to this archaeological dig with a few other people. A doctor, a Scottish doctor, we get another one, which I like because Edinburgh at this time was the center of modern medicine. So that's always consistent.
Oh.
And he and Poirot have met before on some case or another back in the United Kingdom. And also an author, a famous author who's going to an archaeological dig. I can't imagine where Agatha got this idea for a character.
No. No.
And they all go to the
Very confusing.
dig site and are met by Tim Curry's son, who's played by Mark
Mark.
Gaddis.
Okay, I've only read it in books, so I didn't pronounce it that way. Who is Mycroft Holmes along with other things.
Yeah. He's in a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
He plays Leonard in this episode.
Yes.
Yes.
And Tim Curry, whose character name does not matter. I cannot stress.
Lord Boynton.
Yeah.
Tim Curry. Timothy Curry.
That's fair.
Timothy Currant takes Poirot to part of the dig site and tells him a ghost story, essentially. A spooky story, and the lighting's very dramatic, and he's like, okay, so this guy was at this one place, sees death, and then runs across Damascus. That makes sense, because Road to Damascus, very, biblical and thematically nice. Then he rides across the desert to another place, and then
Samara.
Samara Wilson, that's nothing. So Samara, he's there, and death's there again. And Poirot knows this story and interrupts, which is quite rude, and finishes the story. And he's like, okay, so the guy is like, crap, Death's here. And Death is like, yeah, I was surprised to see you back in Damascus because this was always your appointment with Death. And then they both turn to the camera and they go, that's the title of the episode, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thematically, there you go.
It seems like you haven't heard that story before that they're talking about.
Oh.
Am I okay?
Is it
Melissa, have you?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I had heard it a few times before.
Okay.
I thought it was more well known than it. I just thought it was more well known than it was. Is all.
I feel like I've heard similar stories. It sounds very much like something that is in, the general lexicon of my brain, but not specifically general lexicon.
They've both done salutes. So, yeah, it seems like an old parable. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. There's also a nun from Poland.
I think you're right. I just don't remember
so.
specifically, but that sounds right, especially given her accent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she's also there. And those are, I believe that's everybody.
She's like guiding Ginny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Ginny is very
Yeah.
distraught. And because Ginny starts repressed memories start coming back of her drowning as a child in a bathtub.
So-
Gotta drink your coffee.
Yeah.
Can't look for the decapitated, decaffeinated.
So what we come to understand is that the kids of Lady Boynton had been adopted. None of them were her natural children. And they were all terribly, terribly abused. Though it was not so much at the hand of Lady Boynton. Lady Boynton was directing Nanny to do these things, who I guess was also abused in some way by her because, you know.
It was clear that she was in some situation where, like, just quitting was not an option.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So...
Yeah, it's upsetting, and there's lots of flashbacks, and there's terrifying dolls and child abuse.
Yeah, it's deeply unpleasant.
Yes.
Is it the next day?
And I was gonna say something so rude. It's like, also that makes Lady Boynton a coward. Because if you're gonna hit somebody, you know, you should do it. It's what I'm saying.
It's absolutely cowardly.
Yeah.
And I get what you mean, that, like,
you shouldn't hit
one
anyone.
should not do it.
But it's just...
But if you are going to be, or if you are going to have such vile acts as punishment, have the, you know, the bollocks to do it yourself.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
It's absolutely despicable.
Yeah, because, like, on some level, that just says you know exactly what you're doing and why it's wrong, and that's why you are refusing to participate in the act.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Coward, terrible person. And most people go on a walk the next day, as Melissa, you were about to lead it, or Tyler, rather.
Sure.
I think they're at the table the next morning before I think they leave.
Yes, this is important.
And Lady Boynton is, you know, being her usual awful self. And Dame Celia Weston.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
I love the name Celia.
Oh, sorry, Westholm.
Westholm. Ah,
Dang it, Tyler.
So close.
We come to
Very
you
close.
for the specific remembering of the names.
I know. I'm disappointed in myself as well. But Dame Celia Westholm is none too pleased by Lady Boynton and her actions. And it's... Oh, gosh. What is her name? I just had it in my head. The blonde woman, Sarah. Sarah is trying to fix Raymond a cup of tea. And she's like, oh, do you need sugar? And Lady Boynton is like, sugar shows weakness.
Yep.
He won't be having any. And then Dame Celia Westholm very clearly and methodically drops 2 lumps of sugar in her tea, locking dead eyes with Lady Boynton.
You love to see it, folks. So,
and then, just like a couple minutes later, she gets up and smacks the heck out of the back of the neck of Lady Boynton, claiming that, like, oh, you could have been stung. There's a bee.
Yeah, like a hornet. Oh, look, there's the hornet on the floor.
And she delivers this line, which is there are some lines that are absolutely beautiful in this episode. This is not one of them. And it's, I've been stung. And she delivers it very well. She goes, I have been stung. But in a way that works, which is surprising. It just reminded me of very, like, Shakespearean, I am doing this thing. You know, I have been stung. This is for the audience to understand that I'm been stung.
And also for the actor, because there was no stage direction in Shakespeare, except for exit and they fight.
So
Pursued by bear.
Pursued by bear.
Exit pursued by bear. Yeah.
Famously. So also the doctor sees the hornet and squishes it.
Yeah.
Also
on the floor.
Can we get hornet for murder shirts?
Oh, that's fun. That is very fun. Yeah.
I love that. That's good.
Remember, what is the update on the murder hornets?
They just stopped murdering, I guess, or they
Liberal
stopped horneting.
hoax.
One of the two.
They became reformed hermits. Further proof that the criminal justice system does in fact work. Anyway,
they said Trump lost. not our America, and then flew back to
and they
wherever
buzzed off.
I feel like they got a little buried between the pandemic and
Protests.
excessive police brutality.
Actions on American soil by traitors, not patriots.
Yep. Right. Correct.
So, most of the folks, they go out on a walk next.
I'm sorry. I have to interrupt you.
That's what we do here.
Because I'm just envisioning the murder hornets being like, really, guys? Like, we're murder hornets. You're just gonna gloss over the murder hornets?
Funny.
Any other year, this would have been the biggest thing. But this year, this is the year we picked. This year, the year
dejected.
2020. There's like, they have little suitcases. They take their little murder knives and they put them in their little suitcases and they go home and put them in their hat angrily.
Well, I best be going now, I suppose. Well, our great vacation to America was a little disappointing, and now I'm in credit card debt.
And they're like looking back over their shoulder, and like just hopefully, just to see if maybe someone's still paying attention to the murder hornets, and no one is.
Not even the people in Portland. Oh my gosh, that's very funny, Melissa.
I learned from the best. Thank you.
Oh goodness. The murder hornets in like a little fedora with like Willy
Yes, obviously a
Loman
fedora.
looking ass.
Yeah.
Depressed hornets. So it's like they start banging against windows for the attention and also to kill themselves because they're so sad. We should not have sympathy for these hornets, by the way.
No.
They're monsters.
No. Yeah.
So they're all on a walk. They go and visit this beautiful valley that's like lush and fertile, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" But the Scottish doctor,
Jonathan?
Jared. Okay.
Jared.
He's Jonathan in the Mummy, and that if we're calling Tim Curry, I'm gonna call this man Jonathan.
That's okay. That is where I've seen him.
His name is John in real life.
Okay.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, John Hannah.
John Hannah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So John Hannah, Montana, obviously.
Sure, of course.
Is feeling unwell, is suddenly stricken by the heat or what have you, and is rushed off back to the dig site. And he's like, I'm fine. And
because he has malaria.
And
but rather than stay with Lady Boynton, he decides to, get a move on with the rest of the crew.
Yes. And there's a moment with Poirot and Celia where she's like, I don't trust the nun. They're what a bunch of bitches nuns are, basically. And,
essentially, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay. And Poirot being quite Catholic, and also Suchet being quite Catholic, is like, okay. So Ginny and who's the blonde doctor's name?
Sarah. I don't remember her last name, but Sarah.
That's what she's listed as, Sarah.
Sarah and Ginny whisk John Hannah away. And
Sarah King. I know it's not terribly important, but I just remembered it.
yeah, it's
Great.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yes. So they whisk him away, and he shoos Sarah away, and then asks for Ginny to stay. And then Ginny smooches him, and he's like, "Oh, no, thank you." And she's like, "Oh," and she's like, "No, it's not you. It's I don't." He says something really
almost worse. Like he's like essentially talking about how he's into edging.
Yeah.
Without without saying it.
Yeah, he's like, not reluctance or like something is a particular pleasure of mine, and it's like, okay.
Oh yeah, that was super strange.
You could have just been like, I want to wait. I want to get to know you. You could have been like
No, thank you. You are not for me.
You're literally, and this is important later. I was watching that. I'm like, he could be her dad. He's so much older than her. And so then Tim Curry and Mark Gatiss, Mark Gatling Gun have a conversation where basically he goes,
And this is like the true, sorry, but for story purposes, this is true father and son, not adopted like this is Lord Boynton's son.
yeah, biological son. And he goes, off your stepmother a drink. And he's basically, is his name Leonard?
Yeah.
Leonard is like, she's not my real mom. You can't tell me, yeah. And he's like, at one point, Tim Curry is just like, could you call her stepmother? And it's just like,
Yeah.
he's been, is given some really wonderful lines, and I want to know if they had him cast already, because he like uses a bunch of scientific jargon, and he's like, I can see the wheels turning in the old cerebellum, and I'm like, you just gave that to him because of his voice.
So it looks like I'm looking at the Wikipedia for the for the book as well.
Oh, it's wildly different.
And yeah, it looks like he is not even a character.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't exist.
Timothy?
So they made
Yeah, Lord Boynton doesn't exist in the book.
So my theory, it could be true.
Could be, yes.
Yeah, they were just like, oh, I bet we can get Tim Curry. What the heck are we going to have him do? Oh,
Yeah.
we're going to make this entire character.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting, actually.
Which, can I tell you, makes sense, because I don't think the character works other than having Tim
Curry, yeah. That's fair.
Seriously?
Oh my god. So
just in case anyone was wondering, he's not the murderer.
yeah, because he couldn't possibly,
because
he's not in the book, you know. He's like Gopher.
Yeah.
But Leonard goes up to Lady Boynton, who's sunbathing, and is like, "Do you want some water?" And she just ignores him.
Well, just real quick,
Yes.
This is the first time that Lord Boynton gets like confronted about his wife, and it's through Leonard, who says like, "Are you really so blind to how awful this woman is to everyone?
Yeah.
Except you."
Right.
And then Lord Boynton like dismisses him like very coldly.
I'll say this as well, going to like, you know, why is he with her? And this is very common with people who are terrible and abusive, of like, they'll single one person out to be like their advocate.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
well,
true.
they treat me very well, so it couldn't be as bad as all that.
Yeah.
Right.
So that, unfortunately, is reflected very well in this episode.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they get back from the walk, and then you hear Timothy Curry, after it's been a while, they get back from the walk, and they're like, okay, we're all gonna go to dinner, and you know, he calls up to Lady Boynton, who's still sunbathing, and like, not,
It's martini time.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like a bit more dialogue or what have you. There's something that happens, and then she's dead. Most importantly, the death has occurred.
Yeah. So
Ding dong.
Did you say ding dong? Is it ding dong the witch is dead?
Yeah.
Sure did.
Phenomenal.
So Celia and who else? Is it Ginny?
Sarah.
Sarah. Okay.
Yeah.
They're
Celia
both
and
blonde, curly-haired ladies.
Yeah.
So.
Ginny has a little bit more reddish hair, but yeah. They do look similar. So Celia and Sarah run up, and Celia's like, could you close her eyes? Because has her eyes behind sunglasses. And she like can't close her eyes.
Yeah.
And she just puts the sunglasses back on. But, you know.
And then they take her to dinner, and it's Weekend at Bernie's.
And they just ignore the fact that she died for the entire episode. They pretend she's alive. No, she... yeah, so they find a lot of blood. She gets taken down from her perch atop this building, and, she's examined by the doctor. And the doctor's like, yep, she died.
Yeah, she was stabbed by something that wasn't a knife, perhaps a pick. And also
like
the colonel
a
shows
bit
up.
ago.
Yeah, very, very quickly before she was discovered. And the colonel's also there, and Poirot is like, he goes, Poirot, will you help me investigate this? And Poirot is like, you showed up right away. You almost like knew that this was going to happen. What's the deal? Essentially. And so then he goes, well, you can't tell anybody. But really, the reason I'm here is, and then they cut. So there's something going on there. So
then Poirot solves the murder.
Basically, he just investigates everybody. This is where he finds out that everyone's adopted and she was abusive and terrible, and everyone had a motive for killing her. It's also revealed that there was some wax on the scene of the crime as well.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's funny. He also, at one point, is confronted by Leonard, who's like, well, you're looking for a pick. There's a bunch here. He goes, fill your boots.
Take your pick of picks.
Yeah, Sid Caesar's your pick of picks. He says, fill your boots, which is, I believe, a phrase that comes from fill up to your boots, and then it's slowly just disintegrated, because fill your boots does not make any sense.
Excuse you, at Christmas time,
yes,
you fill a boot or a stocking with several treats, so it could very well be a measurement, sir.
Well,
but probably not. Your theory is probably correct.
Probably correct. I believe I heard that once. But yeah, no, I also immediately thought of getting an orange in a shoe come Christmas morn.
Yeah.
But anyhow, once Poirot goes picking through the picks and the axes.
Yeah.
And he's like, can I ask you a question? He finds something in a bag, and he's like, ooh, what could it be? That's not a pick. And he pulls it up, and it's a little tooth, and he puts it in his little pocket.
Oh, yeah.
And then
at some point, the Ginny and the nun get blood. There's some...
Sorry, go ahead.
This part very much confused me.
Okay. I can help you out. Okay, so
Great.
What happens is it's nighttime, number one. They hear a scream. Then Ginny comes out, blood all over her in her nightgown.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, what happened? And then they go to her tent. Poirot discovers the nun has been bashed in the head with a rock, which Ginny is holding. And while Ginny is being consoled by Celia and Sarah, Poirot basically feeds her the story of, oh, so there was an attacker, and attacker, I hardly know her. There's an attacker, an assailant, and the nun, whose name I don't care about. The nun came in to help you, and you accidentally struck her with the stone. And she was like, yes, that is exactly what happened. And he's like, that is what I thought. You all, trying to get some rest. And then he goes.
For the rest of the episode, I'll be referring to the nun as sister.
Perfect.
Sister. Yes, exactly.
Sister.
Yes. We also get a conversation with the nanny, who
love Fran.
Fran Drescher, as it turns out. No, the nanny, who is very old, and she's they're trying to get some information out of her, and it comes out that there was a child named Leslie.
Yes.
That was also in her care, that she had been hitting. Like, who were you hitting? Leslie. Okay. What happened to Leslie? I don't know. Yeah.
And she proceeds to drown herself in a tub.
She does.
And that happens a bit later as well. But that's all because they all rush everybody back to the hotel after the attack happens. Because they're like, yeah, we shouldn't stay here.
Yeah.
And basically, for whatever reason, Poirot rules out Leonard and Lord Boynton. And
I mean, they had like an alibi. I don't remember exactly what it was, but like,
a lot of it. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, that was it. They had an alibi.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Poirot says, so all these people had the perfect alibi.
They were with
me.
Yeah.
The most reliable alibi, in fact, because I saw them and was with them at the time of the death. So this one's a head scratcher here because they were all around. So I don't know who could have done that.
Yeah. Except for the doctor and Ginny and Sarah, who all went back to the tent.
Sure.
And he's like, sure. That's basically what he's like. But
it's also interesting because she was right within Poirot's eye line as well.
Yes.
Lady Boynton, that is.
Yes. There's also this other character that we haven't touched much on, which is the stockbroker, whose name
Broker.
Yeah.
I sent it to a mental asylum instead.
So he has lost a fair amount of money, it turns out, because Lady Boynton's whole outfit, as he says, has gone under back in New York. Because, you know, the way stocks work, people whisper gossip about it's not worth anything, actually, blah, 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 blah. And normally, Lady Boynton would be like, shut up. Just keep investing in my company. She would bully her way to success, which is often the case with these kinds of outfits. Yeah. And since she wasn't there, the company is worth nothing.
Yeah,
and he's
that
lost
really took a turn.
So much money. And this is after Poirot has spoken with Nanny, and John has given her a sedative, and Poirot has like a little nip of it to make sure, and he is like, oh boy, he is sleepy.
Oh, and before this, much earlier in the episode, I remember seeing Poirot, because there's lots of noise going on. Poirot is like in bed trying to get some sleep.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
Like, 2 pillows crowded around his ears. Mwah.
Very good. Also, back at the archaeological dig, there was a goat that had been killed, seemingly randomly. And Poirot is like, that's not normal at all, and is weird.
Yeah. It's time to take a break.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening to this episode and continuing to listen to this ad break. Maybe you can always skip through it. You know, there's that great 15 seconds ahead part of the application. Most podcatchers have that. We're on the Scavengers Network. You can go to scavengernetwork.com and check out all the wonderful podcasts and other content they have there. They've started a new podcast all about Marvel and going through all of the Marvel properties in chronological order of release, including, like, not starting with the MCU, starting with, like, the old Captain America from 1982 or whatever. That's just god-awful. So enjoy that as well, if you'd like, if you're a fan of Marvel.
A very deep dive, let's say.
Very deep dive. No kiddie pool here.
Yeah, we're going off the deep end with this one.
Yes. You can also get merchandise at teespring.com. It's like spring.t/the mill. It's in the show notes. It's a weird URL. I've been giving you out the wrong URL for a while. Anyhow,
good.
you can go there, get mugs, shirts. I got a pair of socks, as I mentioned earlier. I don't know if that was on or off mic. Very cute. Nylon, 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 as Tyler said. Personal plug. I'm beginning to tour my hour of comedy about my experience with bipolar disorder. So if you want me to come to your town, email me at Tristan Miller Comedy. Don't email Amateur Detective Club. Email me, Tristan Miller Comedy, and I'll try and set something up. And if you're in the New York area, there's a bunch of, I'm playing it a bunch of places here. And you can go to tristanjmiller.com/manic-impressive to look at the tour dates.
You can find us on social media at ADC Pod across Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can also email Tristan mostly at amateurdetectiveclub@gmail.com.
We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/ADCpod. For as little as $1 a month, you can receive access to bonus episodes and content for ADC, as well as joining our Discord channel. So be sure to visit patreon.com/ADCpod today.
Back to the show!
Okay, so they're all in some semblance of a parlor, a tent.
Yeah, we're a tent.
We're in some tent or another. In
Yeah.
the meantime, by the way, they've found the skull of John the Baptiste.
Oh, yeah, when Nanny drowns herself, Poirot tells Tim Curry, and Tim Curry's like, oh, that's terrible, but, like, someone's taking care of it, right? Oh, good, that's great. I have to go with the head. There's the head. I have to go see the head.
Yeah, he's not particularly...
I have to stay one step ahead.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was thinking about it a little bit, because I'm like, but, like, if this is the thing that has been consuming him for his entire life, like, I get it at a certain level.
Also...
Yeah, and to find it takes a lot of skull.
skill.
Oh
my gosh. Oh my gosh. But absolutely, and also, it's the head of John the Baptist.
Yeah, that is
I
pretty
would,
wild.
I was like, oh, that's so sad that person's died, but literally a saint's skull I've found.
Yeah.
Well, I've, in quotes, found
Right.
people who I've hired in
Yeah.
quotes.
Yeah. So, they all come together. Poirot basically says, you know what I think we're going to do? I think we're going to do what the murderer does not expect us to do. We're going to go back to the dig, to the dig site. So they all end up in a tent together, big tent. And Poirot says, first we must take care of the redfish. Which is great.
And Tim Curry says, a herring, perhaps? And it's like, they had to have thrown that in.
Watch clip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So silly.
It's okay. I'll take it.
Yeah. It's very fun, though. Also, again, Poirot speaks a lot of French in this episode, which I am a fan of.
Yeah, he's been doing it more and more, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. So first, he's like, listen, this skull you've got. Bad news. Who was it? It was the son?
Yeah, Leonard.
Leonard, Mark Gaddis, who set up...
Yeah.
He, like, basically planted a fake skull. And he's like, Poirot uses the tooth that he found as proof.
Because it's capped with gold, which...
Tooth proof.
Right, and it fits right in.
And
so it can't be the real skull because that's not, of the time.
And then Tim Curry walks out of the tent and the episode. We do not see him again. He just goes to do another thing, which makes me think they got him for 3 days. And they shot all of his stuff.
Did not stay to see who murdered his wife.
No, did not care.
Once we were on the head of John the Baptist, that was all he needed to.
Yeah.
That's all he wanted to deal with.
Yeah.
So that's taken care of.
Which again makes sense as to why he's not in the book. Or because he just leaves and nothing changes.
And we're wrapped on Tim Curry.
Yep.
So then everybody applauds. So yes, then we deal with the attack on Ginny, and it was the nun?
Yes.
The whole time?
Wanting to sell her into white slavery.
Yep. Which
was it really?
mention.
That was the thing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
It was made. Everything is set up throughout the episode. There's little hints of this. Even when the Colonel shows up, there's he gets stung by some sort of wasp or something, and he's like, I hate bugs.
Sure.
And the Colonel is there to investigate the white slave trade, and that's why he was there at all. And
okay.
And
yeah,
the nun is essentially grooms young women and captures them and takes them away.
Yeah.
Awful. If there's one lesson from this episode, it's that women are terrible. White women are awful.
Well,
that's the one lesson.
To quote Gloria Steinem, white feminism is not feminism.
Correct.
So,
my friend Gloria Steinem.
Is that my neighbor Totoro?
No, I'm just saying that because I've actually met her.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
A couple times. Yeah.
Friend of the podcast.
No.
So.
Probably not friends of ours on this podcast.
No. Yeah. What's that coming to go?
So what happened with the murder?
So
we also find out Leslie, right?
Yes.
So who's this Leslie person? So there's this guy, Jefferson, who's been hanging around. Yes,
broker.
It's the stockbroker.
Again.
That's right. And he's like, I found out that your first name is actually not Jefferson. It's something else. What's that all about? He's like, well, I didn't like that I had a gender neutral first name. Mm-hmm. So, I chose my second name. Mm-hmm. That's fine, right? It's
and
like,
it
yes,
is.
But your first name is, yeah, it is. Your first name is dun 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 Leslie. You were this other abused child of this awful woman. Mm-hmm. But it turns out you were just pulling pranks on her. Instead of actually killing her.
Yes.
You made sure she couldn't get a newspaper.
Yeah. And not only that, two things. One, because Lady Boynton couldn't conceive a child naturally with her first husband, she had this parade of children coming in and basically testing them out. And he was one of them, and he was gone within a day. Because he was so badly behaved. But not only was he pulling pranks, Melissa, he, back in New York, sabotaged her company.
Oh, yeah. A little prank.
Yeah. One of those business pranks.
Yeah.
Yeah, very trading places.
Yeah.
It was the Dukes. It was the Dukes. Oh, my gosh. That movie. Yeah, from Sweden. So anyway... So he wanted to make her suffer. He did not want to kill her. He wanted to slowly dissolve her mind and business and soul, which is correct. And the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Right.
Because there's that line
So-
from the Bible that says, "Vengeance is mine," says the Lord. But I'm like, God also works through people, so maybe.
I'm just a vessel.
Ooh, yeah, the justification for so many wars. Anyway,
And now we get to
Yeah.
the reveal, right?
the person who actually killed her was two people. So it turns out that Zoe Boyle is the actor's name. Ginny. I'm
Reading is fun, guys.
yeah. Yep.
You ever read? Am I
Ginny,
right?
Not since we switched
No,
to doing the
apparently
episodes.
not. Yeah, exactly.
Bunch of illiterate. No.
Ginny's mom, her IRL
Her
biological mom, is a former servant of Mrs. Boynton's, who is Celia Westholm.
Bum, bum,
What?
Who
What? Yep.
gave her up for adoption, gave Ginny up for adoption, and then went to a convent, and that's why she hates nuns.
Sure.
Played by the exquisite American actress Elizabeth McGovern.
Yes.
See, very well done. Would not have clocked her for an American. Well done.
Yeah, love Elizabeth McGovern.
Well,
Yeah,
the
she's
name
great.
sounds very familiar. What else is she?
Downton Abbey. I've also seen her on Broadway.
Okay.
She was in a really fun TV movie called Clover with Ernie Hudson, Loretta Devine.
Clover.
That was really wonderful.
She was also
She
in
hardly knew
Kick-Ass.
her in that movie.
Yeah. She was also in Kick-Ass.
That's probably where I've seen her.
Okay, I haven't seen Kick-Ass.
I
did
cannot
once.
attest to how well it's aged, but it was good at the time.
Sure, in 2010.
Yep.
Yeah. No, she's been around.
So also with her accomplice being Jonathan Hannah.
John Hannah, Dr. Gerard or Gerard or whatever, however they pronounce it in this episode, because he's her dad. He's Ginny's dad.
Which is why she's like, please do not try to make love to me while I have malaria, which is also a weird thing to do. Which,
Yes.
you know, when you have malaria and you just get so horny.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I know I did, but
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so the two of them conspired.
Malaria. That's nothing. Okay.
So he worked up a concoction, gave it in a little syringe to Celia. And Celia, when she slapped her on the neck during that
Was actually-
conversation, she didn't get stung by a wasp. In fact, what happened was, much like in Death in the Air, I mean, she just
Death in the
slapped
Clouds,
slapped the syringe into her, or the needle or whatever it was, quickly into her neck.
Yep.
And then they threw a little dead hornet on the floor to be like, oh, see, that's the one that stung you. So then she went up on her perch, and this poison worked in such a way that it paralyzed her while she was basically baking in the sun, which is
brilliant.
savage.
Phenomenal.
It's fantastic.
Oh, it's so satisfying.
Yeah, because
So
this
like
woman
when they're
was
trying to
awful.
close her eyes, she was still alive, but just couldn't say anything.
Yep.
Chef's kiss.
Delicious.
So gruesome.
I
And
love to see it, as Tristan would say.
this woman was terrible. Let's keep in mind. So,
Yeah, no. I feel no remorse for this woman.
Yeah,
yeah. So, finally, when Celia was up there, they had taken the blood from the goat. Poor goat.
which
a
made me
little-
think of an old bit that you used to do, Tristan, of Lewis Black as God.
Right. Oh my god. Oh, I should bring that bit back. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh my god, thank you for taking me down memory lane there for a minute.
You're welcome.
Oh my god, I didn't laugh at the concept of my own joke, but out of shock. A safe surprise, as you will. Which is all humor is. Sorry, I have to be alone with my thoughts for a second.
That's okay. I'll continue. So they grabbed blood from the goat, put it in a wax balloon, and then she took this wax balloon while she was checking to see if Mrs. Boynton was still alive. Put it on her side and popped.
No, sorry, point of order. That was what Dr. Gerard did
Oh.
after he drugged Ginny to like have her fall asleep so she could corroborate his alibi. He snuck off, did the blood goat thing with the wax ball, and then returned to his tent.
Okay. And then when she was back up there, she stabbed her in the side.
Yeah, when she took Dr. King with her, Sarah, up with her, she was stabbing her at the same time as she was, quote-unquote, checking up on her.
Right. So she actually ended her life then, as they were checking on her, even though it appeared that she was dead from, like, cooking in the sun.
Yeah.
Gross. Amazing. So, yeah, they did it. They're like, yeah, hi, Ginny, we're your real parents. So, sorry about your whole life. We did love you. And, as it turns out, we have to both commit suicide right now in front of you.
Yeah.
So
This poor woman, Ginny.
yeah.
She's been through a lot.
Yeah.
None of it justified.
No. Abused as a child,
I can't
attacked by her nun person. And then
As soon as she meets her biological parents.
Rip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In front of her.
Yeah, awful. Just terrible.
Yeah. So they die
There's a lot.
very dramatically.
Yes, very dramatically. And the doctor has like some quippy line of like 10 to the living, they're more
Likely to pay their bills.
on time, yeah. Like terrible last words. I mean, keep them laughing, but come on.
Yeah.
You couldn't say like I love you and I'm so sorry to your daughter.
Yeah.
Ass.
Well, he don't really know her like that, to be fair.
But there's a beautiful line that Poirot has. Let's see if I can remember it fully. He's like, and the guilt, like, you were drowning in guilt, and then that began to boil in your soul. And I was like, oh, nice job, whoever. A+. You get that underlined in the script. Way to go. Suchet must have been like, ooh, I got a banger.
Yeah. So there's that.
Then there's
yeah.
2 little epilogues, much like Return of the King.
Sure.
One is the nun has escaped, driven out into the desert, and then dies. And beautiful shot of her lying face down in the sand and buzzards overhead. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Good. Get her out of here. Then the other epilogue is that Poirot and Ginny are talking, and he basically she and her sister are gonna go see the pyramids in Egypt, and he gives her a rosary, and it's like, hey,
Yeah.
God loves you. He actually has another really good line, which is, there is nothing so broken in this world that God Almighty cannot fix, which is a beautiful sentiment, I think.
Yeah.
Also, Tim Curry has gone off someplace, as has his son, and it's all whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it.
What do we think?
I'll go. For me, this was a 2. What is it? Out of 5, right?
10.
Or 10?
10
What are
for
we
a
doing?
film.
We'll do 10.
Ah, right. Okay. 2. Um,
Would have been a
make
0.5
it lower,
for 5.
I might have just made it a 1
Sure.
if it was out of 5.
Okay.
To be somewhat nice
Good
about
grief.
it. I think the performances were fine across the board. I'm just at a point in my life and in Poirot where, I mean, when did this ended up being filmed?
It's like 2000.
Oh, 2010
Yeah.
is when this aired.
Oh.
Like, I'm over, yes, racism and xenophobia certainly existed, but, like, the lack of comeuppance with, the more modern episodes, it's like, we haven't grown from when this series first premiered in 89 till now. Like, if there's no growth, what's the point? I'm over it.
That's
Sure.
understandable. There is a line as well from the Colonel where he goes, Poirot, I know you're a foreigner, but I judge you to be a good egg, so I'm going to let you in on
Oh,
this.
yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Not the best. Goodness. Yeah, I guess 5 for me. Like there was some compelling things about it. Like Tim Curry is definitely a draw for me. I enjoy Tim Curry whenever he's there. Liked seeing Mark Gatiss. There's some good folks in this. The story's weird, a little all over the place. I mean, it's fine enough to follow. The nun thing's strange. It seems extraneous. It's just a red herring, really, for the murder. But yeah, it's yeah, that's my reaction to this episode.
I give it about a 4. 3.54. Like, it's serviceable. It's fine. It's so strange. The series finales are never good. They're never as good as the rest.
Truly.
They're always the weakest of the season. The season opener is always very strong. They fizzle. It's always diminishing returns, which is not to say like they're, bad or whatever, or, they're just not our favorites. Consistently across the board. They've never gone out with a bang. It's very strange. And the cast obviously is very fun, and the setting. The matte paintings in this episode, phenomenal. There's a scene where they're driving too, and it's just so clearly a green screen. And they've done this terrible thing where they've added a vignette to the corners and to make it look more exotic, and they've plopped that tan filter that they always do. It's like, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, from a filmmaking standpoint, it was fine. I was curious about the location of the dig site because it's this castle, and I'm like, did they find a castle that wasn't in the Middle East? Because sometimes it's clearly a matte painting, sometimes it feels like a set, sometimes it feels like a castle in England that they dropped a bunch of sand in front of. It's so strange. From a technical standpoint, this whole episode. The acting was good. Again, some of the writing was there's some lines that stood out to me.
Sure.
But overall, I knew immediately what had happened. She swats the back of her neck. I'm like, oh, she just poisoned her, and then that's a fake bee or a dead bee. Okay, so they're in it together. Why? And then I had the thought, he's old enough to be her dad. And then I was like, at no point... I'll say this. It is easy enough to follow. I'll be honest with you. I was on TikTok at points during this episode, and I still was able to tell you what happened. So, perhaps not... It's perhaps Agatha's most predictable work, or the adaptation being.
It's so interesting because Agatha Christie went on all these digs with her husband. And I feel like every time we get an archaeological dig episode, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, it's the one I like the least. This one's actually better than some of the other ones we've gotten as far as the archaeological digs.
Whenever we go abroad, it's always a toss-up.
Yeah.
I mean, Death on the Nile was quite good in my estimation, but like,
Oh, right.
but that one's like, that one slaps. Everyone says it slaps, you know? So,
Yes.
yeah,
but yeah.
I agree with you, Melissa. It always feels like, oh, okay, here we go. But with that being said, I love the outfits. The costumes in this episode are phenomenal. At one point,
That's true.
the colonel's in short pants but a jacket, and I'm like, you look like a schoolboy, and I do want to steal that look. There was an outfit that Sarah, when she discovers the body, she's like in this beautiful like maroon blouse and high-waisted trousers, and I'm like, this is beautiful. I'm like, if only. And that's what basically everyone in Brooklyn looks like now.
I know. I'm like, that's basically goals, wardrobe goals.
Can I tell you? It's true, though. Everyone in Brooklyn.
It's good.
It's true. Everyone in Brooklyn looks like that because, you know, handkerchiefs have come back and, like, everyone's in, like, low slung button up, short sleeve shit. I don't know. It's like everyone looks like they're in The Mummy now.
I mean,
which is fantastic.
That is the goal.
Yeah.
From what I understand, not just from Tyler, but now from numerous other people, the bisexual awakening film of our time.
Yes.
Like,
truly.
Oh, that wasn't me.
That wasn't for you.
Okay,
that wasn't me.
but
yeah. But I know what you mean.
Right.
It's in the zeitgeist as that, which is understandable. A lot of hotties are in that movie. Yeah, so...
I really need to watch it.
I
really need to watch The Mummy.
You've never seen The Mummy?
No.
It's on the box office.
Yeah. No, I know I need to.
Oh.
Don't watch the third one. I mean, do it if you want, obviously, but I wouldn't.
But I don't have to.
No.
Yeah, Rachel Weisz isn't in that one. They replaced her with another actress,
and
I was
good.
very unhappy with the casting choice.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so
video of Catherine Hahn staring at Rachel Weisz.
Yes.
So good.
And that I think spoke to everybody.
Yeah.
So before we wrap this episode up, bit of business. We're doing, what is it, Short Stuff Summer? Is that what you're calling it?
Short Stuff Summer.
Here we go. Short Stuff Summer. It's good, you know, because our attention spans are bad and our schedules are full. Short Stuff Summer. You don't know what we'll pull.
Right. There you go. You got a rhyme. Nice.
Thank you. So basically, we're not going to do Poirot for the summer, the duration of the summer, and we're going to just do shorter episodes because with things opening up again, as they say constantly on the news, we've gotten a bit busy, and my brain is fried like a hot egg on the sidewalk.
The weather is frying our brains, as are the demands of an actual schedule with having to go places.
My brain is boiling like the insides of Lady Boynton on top of that scaffolding in Syria.
So good. I can't. I bring it up to a 4.5 because that was so. I felt so good when she fucking died. I was like, I almost stood up and applauded.
You're right. I'll give it a 3. I'll give it 1 point just because that was a really well done murder. That was
true.
So good. That was so good.
If Poirot hadn't come around, they would have gotten away with it too.
Honestly.
If it weren't for that pesky Belgian. It reminded me of in Slaughterhouse 5. One of the characters describes the way to, if you really want to kill somebody and make them suffer, is you put honey on their genitalia and put them on top of an anthill and let the ants eat them alive. And I'm like, Jiminy Christmas. Kurt, what did you go through? My God.
Yeah. I'm realizing a lot that...
What's he going, Vonnegut?
Oh, good grief.
The amount of Kurt Vonnegut I read as my frontal lobe was forming probably did mess me up quite a lot.
Yes. Good books most of the time. God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater is phenomenal. So we're going to do short stuff. We've talked about, some ideas that have been floated by are Amy Sedaris' show. I keep bringing up the Winnie the Pooh episode where it's a mystery.
We can do Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, let's do Winnie the Pooh.
RQ Yakko from Animaniacs. We've had kind of a small backlog of shorter things we've wanted to do. So
it'll be fun.
Yeah.
We promise.
It'll be short stuff.
It'll be fun. Stick with us.
And this month, certainly not this week, but at It's Tyler Riley on Twitch, I will be starting my channel in preparation for the Blood on the Ice quest of Skyrim. The murder mystery storyline, or quest, rather, in the Elder Scrolls Skyrim game.
You better believe I'm going to call in and just bother you while you play.
Please do. It's going to be none of that for the first month, because I have to reach a certain status in order to do more fun things.
Yeah, you have to.
So in the early odds, yeah.
You don't want to be a low enough level where you're just dying, and also you have to unlock the quest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Nice.
There you go. That's those are our plans. Having a summer vacation.
But we'll still be here.
Yeah.
Well, it's just going to be like we're beach reading.
Yes,
you know?
That's actually in my mind. Every time you said short stuff summer, that is, I imagined us reading, which, funnily enough, Agatha Christie is often summer reading for people.
Yeah, but these are hour and a half.
Oh my gosh.
Movies that we have to watch every week, y'all. So
we have to watch it.
We're just going to cut it back.
And think about, that's the other thing, is we have to remember a mystery. And generally speaking, mysteries, they're harder to solve. You know, they're done that way. They're confusing on purpose, as we've seen with this episode. So, and yeah, anyhow.
The whole nun thing.
The whole
exactly.
The nunnery of it all.
Nonsense.
Yes, it's, you know, what they say, being a nun, it's a tough habit to break. And with that, I now call this meeting of the Amateur Detective Club to a close.
Gavel sound.
Dolores Van Cartier.
Yes.